record. Thank
Okay.
you for joining us this afternoon. We have Corey Olson from LMG Virtual Solutions, who's going to present for us today. Corey, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Autumn. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about capturing content, scalable streaming packages. The world as we all know it has completely changed. And so we had to come up with a workable solution. And normally I would talk about our Hive platform, but we talked about that earlier today. So today or this afternoon, I'm going to focus on our scalable streaming packages, which are the remote cast, broadcast, and event cast. And then we're going to take a look at some of those enhancements of those, which are the 3Rs, the augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. Then we're going to take a look at some of the environments, which consist of our studio spaces, some of the scenic elements, as well as some of our convention spaces. Okay, so here are the flexible solutions. So we've got the remote cast, which is 100% remote. So the presenters are remote, the attendees and crew are all remote. We've been doing quite a bit of that, as you can imagine. And then we've got the broadcast solution, which is kind of a mix of remote and studio. The studios can be in one of our facilities, or we can bring the studio to you.
And are you sending out presenter ready kits or speaker ready kits for all the full remote, or are they just
We
using
are, yes, we absolutely are. And I'll show you what those look like here in just a moment. And then we've got the event cast, which is kind of a hybrid. It's kind of a mix of both live and remote audiences, live and remote presenters. So let's take a look at the remote cast first of all. We've developed 3 kits. We've got a basic kit, a standard kit, and an enhanced kit. And here you can see the 3 different versions of that. The basic kit goes out with 1 laptop, a microphone, and a light. It's preloaded with the software that we need. It allows us to connect to the cloud studio. Okay, very, very simple, very easy setup. But it's great if we're doing, if the presenter is doing a presentation or record. And then we have the standard kit, which goes out with 2 laptops, a couple of lights. It's got a upgraded camera that we can completely control. It's remote. The 2 laptops would be the primary laptop, and then the second laptop can be the backup laptop, or it can be used for prompting or presenter graphics.
The third, and can I specify PC over Mac?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Can I specify PC over Mac? We work with a lot of large computer companies that rhyme with Bell
Yes.
and Microsoft.
Yeah. I'm sorry, yes, you absolutely can. Yes.
That was funny. That was very funny.
And then the third package is the enhanced. The third package is the enhanced, which goes out with a 4K PTZ camera. Again, it goes out with a couple of lights. You'll notice on the standard and the enhanced that it's optional, they can go out with a green screen as well. So if we're doing augmented reality, then we can send that out as well. The basic kit and the standard kit, they go out in a single Pelican. The enhanced kit goes out in 2 small Pelicans. And there's very detailed instructions on these kits, how to set them up. We also have engineers that can call in and help them with the setup. In those rare situations, we can even have a local technician come by and assist with the setup. That doesn't happen too often because, again, our instructions are very detailed, and it's very, very straightforward. So one other thing I'd like to mention, because most people are working remote, we've had to send these kits out to some very remote locations. And sometimes the wireless cellular service isn't the best. So we also have the ability to send out bonded cellular kits with the 4 primary carriers, just in case, just as a backup. And again, the reason we send out our laptops with the preloaded software is because, as many of you know, a lot of times the executives, they're using a company laptop. There's a lot of restrictions. There's a lot of firewalls. And so it's very difficult to load software on there and use it for, presenting. So with these 3 kits, it makes it very streamlined, very simple, and gives us complete control. So let's talk about the broadcast side of it a little bit, which again was that mixture. So here's 3 images you can see. We're going to talk about these 3. You've got the extended reality set, which is the 2 LED walls and the LED floor, right? You can take a person or an object and place them in an environment. This can be kind of popular with some CEOs, some presenters, because they can actually see their environment. They're in an environment. They can look around and kind of tell what's behind them, what they're seeing. When you go to the virtual studio, the green screen, some presenters aren't always as comfortable. So it takes a little bit more rehearsal time. It takes a little bit more hand holding to kind of walk them through and give them an idea of how it's going to look.
And you can set up that extended reality set just like a hotel ballroom or some more rented space.
Yep, absolutely. Very remote, very, very versatile. Okay. And then the third option is the traditional set, where we can set up a hard set in one of our studios, or we can bring that to a location. That's also very popular. It's something that most people are familiar with. And they like the look, they like it's customizable. So that's also a very popular option.
Can I rewind you that it's enhanced with XR capabilities? Explain that a little.
Hey, Corey.
Yeah.
We're about to get to the augmented reality and XR and extended reality. And that's my cue to jump in.
He loves talking about that. That's his area. Okay, well, I'm going to keep going, and then I'll let Les jump in because he'll talk about that, and I know we're going to go over 30 minutes, so I'm going to make it quick. Okay. So here's the event cast. Again, it's the best of both worlds. And we know that as we move down this path over the next year or so, this is where it's going to go. We're going to have that mixture. Even when live events come back and come back strong, we're convinced we're still going to see a lot of the virtual world. We're going to see that environment. So you're going to have a live audience, smaller probably, and a live presenter, but you're also going to have remote audiences and remote presenters. So it's going to be that hybrid, that mixture of the 2 worlds. So we've actually been seeing a little bit of that as we've gone down this path. So I think it's really going to pick up as we move forward. So this is the part Les loves talking about. So we're going to let Les jump in and
Hello,
kind of give you
I'm
a quick
jumping
overview.
in. This is the R's. It's famous for the AR, the VR, the MR, the extended reality. So your crash course on all the R's starts with the next slide. So augmented reality, in simple terms, is like the way they do the weather. So a person is standing behind a green screen and they're looking at a computer graphical generated image and they're pointing to a place on a map. Well, in our world, AR is a lot greater than the weather experience. AR is, we work in Unreal. So we're dealing with environments that we can paint and make look any which way you want them to look. And so we'll show you a couple of images in AR. But really for your client, they're gonna have to be comfortable with a green screen experience. So they're standing behind a green screen, we're shooting them, and they're looking at a monitor or some type of visual display, which has composited them inside this world, this computer-generated graphical world. And we can get a whole bunch of different templated environments as part of the raw solution, which we'll show you. And that's AR. So separately MR and XR. So extended reality is very typical as a left wall, a right wall, a floor. And the first thing to create extended reality is, the best analogy I can give you is, if we wanted to transform you to the moon, we would get a really good visual image of the moon, and we would have you standing on the moon. And when you put a person inside an image, extended reality image, it becomes a mixed reality. So we've got this visual element that we're creating that is the image of the moon. And then we have you, Liz, in your spacesuit on the moon, obviously. And so
Are
that's
you calling me
ultimately,
a space cadet?
I am not calling you a space cadet. I'm just saying that we wouldn't expect you to be on the moon without your spacesuit, because that's just one of those things. We will have put you on Elon Musk's rocket. We sent you up there for a weekend trip to the moon. So
Not the ones that explode on landing, though. I want the
no, those are very special. Those are work in progress. Those are practice experiences, not real ones. So extended reality is very different than mixed reality. And AR, because AR, you're sitting behind a green screen, and extended mixed reality is you're actually looking and you feel like you're in this place. So that computer company that you mentioned that rhymes with Bell may have done something like this not too long ago. And one of the things that we're known for is taking and building these environments where corporations, where their C-level executives live and breathe and work, because a lot of times people are more comfortable in their space. So we've done this for a lot of technology companies around the country. And while it's not as convenient as coming to our studio, it's the reality, because we have to deal with health and safety of leadership of these companies. And then finally, there's the other R of VR. Now, VR is the idea that you're going to put these goggles on, and we don't know too many clients that are willing to wear goggles for any duration of time. So we think VR is very gaming-like. If you have a gaming client, that's probably the only experience you might get someone to go down that journey. But let's move forward. So the first part we talked about was AR. So augmented reality, on the top right image, you see Matt, who works for us, and you can see these bar charts, and they popped out of nowhere. And they're basically a computer generated thing that we're using, and we're keying them in. And that's how, so with AR, you can make a production look amazing with not that much cost. And the magic of it is the computer graphics are generating all these great images, and we're just putting people in there. And the window behind them that says LMG Solutions, that window could be graphics, it could be video, it could be a Zoom call, a Teams call, a GoToMeeting call, and we can really paint the environment with AR. If you look at the center image has 3 people. They're all sitting on chairs on green screen. And basically we have a front plate, which is the AR virtual desk. And the front is a production desk. So obviously if we built a desk and had carpenters come in and built this incredible environment, that is one solution, but it's a lot cheaper and inexpensive to create the graphical version of the fake imaginary desk. And then we have a front plate and we have a back plate. And the back plate we can put content on. So we can do all kinds of cool things. And if I put my hands over that desk, I will see the reflection in the desk. It is that good. So, and then finally, you see at the very lower one, you're seeing something called a weather widget, or what we call a transparent element inside augmented reality. So this product that we primarily use to do this is called the Ross Voyager system. And we were the company that helped launch this product at NAB with them. We've done a lot of their launches and their meetings, their like dealer meetings, et cetera. And it's a broadcast product that you typically see in a production studio. So this is the idea that we're not going to do real physical sets. We're going to create virtual sets. And in Unreal, there's a lot of libraries of these templated environments that you get to do all kinds of cool stuff with.
Well, I think it's interesting because I know this is positioned as probably the lower cost of all the 3 options, but I feel like it's not, because you need to hire speaking coaches and talent, like people, because your executives are not going to be used to walking onto a green screen and talking to a weather widget.
Well, the idea with this technology is if you can coach your client to feel comfortable, and you can get them comfortable because they're actually going to see what they look like composited with the graphical content. If you can get them over that hump, this is a very inexpensive way to go because you're generally working in templated environments. And you can create custom ones, but the templated environments, they're so diverse and there's so much you can do, and you can paint them with color, logos, and branding. And it's a really, really popular way to take a production that you don't want to spend a fortune on and make it look like you spent a fortune.
Yeah,
So,
just anyone that's considering it, just put into the budget to have some sort of producer or coach or somebody for your executives, because I have experienced execs that are just awful at
that. My execs had to have an Outlook calendar for their Zoom thing and couldn't figure out how to use an agenda online. So I get it.
You know, it's nice from an attendee standpoint because it creates an environment that they're used to seeing. They're used to seeing it on broadcast television, you know, the major news networks, ESPN. So they can relate to it pretty easily. I'm going to go ahead and play a video to kind of give you an example of what Les was just talking about. Just a quick, short little video.
By the way, it's going to dream of mine to the other person, so I want to do that at some point.
So in this window, you could have a Zoom call, a Teams call. That ticker tape can come from a stream off the internet. So you see him, and all of a sudden he has all this augmented reality around him, these environments, and we can do all kinds of crazy things. And you can see his hands reflecting in the desk and the ticker tapes. And this is something called a push. And so we can zoom in or we can pull out of an environment and we can make this work. And obviously it's a little choppy because of the video over IP, but the point is there's so much potential with augmented reality. It is super cool. So now this transitions to our next slide, which is mixed and extended reality. So first,
I see that again real quick. Would that be just too disruptive?
No, we can rewind the tape. Rewind the tape, Corey. Go back a slide. Play the video again.
Here we go.
I'll commentate again. We can do that again.
There we go.
Okay. Remember, watch the desk, okay? Watch the hands and that. So anything in the window.
I saw the desk. I was mesmerized.
Yeah. So notice the ticker tape comes from, you can take a tape off. So this is where he is. But now he's in an augmented reality world. We can make him feel like he's anywhere, and it looks like there's real production value. You see the hands reflecting in the desk? And so this is the push. So once you're in a three-dimensional Unreal environment, look at what you can do. And you can do this really inexpensively. They're very neat, cool things. And obviously, if you wanted a much more in-depth review, we could do a lot more of a demo if you would like to talk about it in much greater detail and show examples of shows we've done.
Super cool. So did you see what are they called? The Snapchat, when they did their event, probably mid-pandemic-y in May or so. I think that this was the technology they used, and I thought it was extremely engaging. They did a really good job. I don't know if you saw that one.
And again, just what's really nice about it is, I mean, you can do this almost anywhere that you've got the space. You know, you can do it in a ballroom. You can go to a corporate site and do it. You can do it in one of our studios. So, I mean, it's flexible and it's, you know, you can do it anywhere. So
okay, we're moving on from AR. We're going back to MR and extended reality, ER. So if you look at the top image, there is a bridge on a hillside somewhere in the world. And we're creating with the two walls and the floor this graphical image to show you what that bridge looks like. So we're transforming you from wherever you are to that location. Now, obviously, if you were to get all the production equipment and go to that location, the cost would be obviously substantially higher. And you don't know what the weather is when you're shooting. We can control the weather. That's the one thing when you're inside an extended reality. If we want to make it rain, we can do it. But one thing, when we put the two guys on the bridge, and it's the lower image, you can see they look like they're physically standing on the bridge. And this is that extended reality and adding the people, which makes it a mixed reality. And the possibilities are endless. So the difference between augmented reality and mixed and extended reality is, in this reality, that people can turn and look at the floor and they can look at the walls and they can get the feeling that they're there. And the computer content that's being generated, that is being displayed, helps with the association of the proximity of where I am in the world. And when you look at an AR world, you're looking about computer generated content that you don't have that same experience. So that's kind of the fundamental difference with this version of extended and mixed reality. And moving on, you know, the virtual reality, I think as the last R, I would have to say it's probably somewhat dead on arrival for our industry. Again, not unless there's gaming involved, but it is one of the famous R's.
And
So moving on.
we include it because we do from time to time get requests or clients asking us about it. So, you know, it is a talking point.
But you are actually kind of just shutting them down, just saying it's impractical at this point?
We've actually done it. And what we've found is that you can either wear the goggles or you can put an apparatus over your phone to actually have some kind of an experience. It's just not something that we find people are very much mesmerized and they're going to be engaged. And it's all about audience engagement. And if we just don't see that as a solution, I would tell you, if we were doing a gaming conference and everyone wanted to play the game and we all wanted to wear the goggles, and you have to worry about your phones that you're putting in the goggles unless you get dedicated goggles to actually not run out of power, and you need to have a lot of connectivity and Wi-Fi, and there's lots of pieces to that puzzle to make it successful. Corey, take it away from environments.
Okay, thanks, Les. So we're going to take a look at some of our spaces around the country, and you can see we're fairly well spread out. We've got very good coverage. Our corporate office is obviously in Orlando. We've got 2 studios there, actually 3, and we've got 2 studios in our London office. We've got 2 studios in Baltimore and Detroit, and we have a large studio in Vegas. Now you'll notice Seattle and San Jose and Nashville, we're in-house at those convention centers. And our goal is to put studios in those 3 convention centers sometime in 21. We would have had them there already, but in Seattle and San Jose being shut down and closed, we have to wait for them to open up. So we do have really good coverage. Here's a look at our Orlando studio space. It's almost 6,000 square feet. And when you rent one of our studios, you get a full production office. It comes with break rooms, restrooms, kitchen, showers. It's got private entrances in, so you can shuttle in CEOs, entertainment, or whatever you have. It's your own space. Here's our coil studio. We call this our ready to go studio. This is also in Orlando. Because it's always set up, it's ready to go. So if you have a client or a couple of clients that want to come in and do a quick recording, maybe stream something out, this is a great place to do that. The cameras are there, the lighting, the master control area. I mean, it's all set up and ready to go. Here's a shot of our Las Vegas studio. This is our largest studio that we have. It's almost 10,000 square feet. Again, it comes with everything. Here on the upper left, you'll see a picture of Usher and Summer Walker, who came in not that long ago to shoot a video. And we're getting a lot of traction from the West Coast because things are shut down, so they can make a quick trip to Vegas and do what they need to do, as well as corporate types as well.
So this is our coolest thing since sliced bread. This is about a month old, and it's a full augmented reality colossal cube. And if you see the size of the people, so we decided to create an XR stage that is very different than what we would refer to as the left wall, the right wall, and the floor. And ultimately, the reality is we're trying to use this space to transform people and create some really cool content. And this space was used recently for a production with Lindsay Sterling, who's a electric violinist, and she has a program coming out pay-per-view this weekend. And it's just an amazing space to work in because of its size and scale, and its close proximity to the Las Vegas Strip. And Corey, is there a video to play?
Yeah, I've got a short video for that as well. Let me roll that.
So what I think, if you just kind of grab the gravity of the scale of this, so instead of having a small XR stage, which most of them are, this has LED transformed around the entire ceiling, the floor, the walls, and it allows us And we have what they call camera tracking. So we can actually, as the camera moves, the content has to move in conjunction. And it's really one of those over the top kind of experiences. So a band can come on that stage and actually produce some really amazing stuff when we use the extended reality, and we can transform people to any place on the planet. So if you have a show and you need a place, that is a cool place to do production.
Fascinating.
Exactly. And here's a shot of our Detroit studio, one of our ready to go studios, our executive studios. We've got a studio, as I mentioned earlier, in London. So you've got your 2 LED walls, an LED floor, as well as a ready to go studio, LED screen, master control. Again, fully equipped, comes with all the production spaces that we talked about before.
They're beautiful. Those studios are gorgeous.
Yep.
And ultimately, I think this is our last slide. The theory that we have is that if people are going to gather and they're going to produce some kind of content, whether it's live, in a studio, if they're getting together, we have to really think about the enhanced safety and the security protocols for the people that are gathering. And there's the concept of a COVID safety officer, and the person who's going to create a plan before we get on site to protect all the people. That's the crew, that's maybe the host or the participants, it might be the client. At the end of the day, our job is to keep everyone safe. And there's got to be a plan in the event someone gets sick or there's an illness because of a COVID experience. And it could be whether it's the direct person on site or it's maybe their spouse. At the end of the day, there's got to be a plan. There's got to be everything from, recently we did a show in Seattle, one of our big clients, that we had a COVID officer that was giving out COVID safety tests. Every day you got a COVID test. So, these are the kind of things that a client has to decide up front. Those decisions will make sure that the safety and the ability for us to execute and a plan if maybe one of the leadership team gets COVID, and do we bring them in remotely or do we replace them? And then the next thing where kind of our bullet point is the idea of the hybrid and the virtual the model. So if someone says, I'm going to do a real show in August, we say, that's great. Here's a quote for a real show, but let's also talk about our virtual show too, because we're going to have a plan. And whether you do real and virtual, just real or just virtual, we are going to have a plan, and you can't go anything wrong by having a plan. And so because of the uncertainty of the world and vaccines and herd immunity, so many factors out of our control, we just want to have a plan. And then how we think the world should, every production should look at flexibility and the ability to scale and adapt. Yeah. Because so many things on the day, 3 months or 2 months or 30 days before the show, this is our plan and we're going into it and this is what we're going to do. And so many things could change. And so it's all about rolling with the punches and having a production partner that is going to be your ally and who's going to make sure that, as whether the location changes, the setup changes, whether we were doing LED and now we're going to do a broadcast set. There's so many factors. You just have to be prepared on your toes and how you're measured. We did a project today in our headquarters at the Coil Studio for the Visit Orlando, the Convention Visitors Bureau, their annual meeting. And it just finished about 2 hours ago. And, we're looking for home runs every day. We want to make sure we hit home runs. And so many factors go into these virtual events. Everything from the internet, the backup internet, to the power, to, the CDN. And there is just a number of points of failure. And you just have to do everything you can to mitigate risk. And there's a lot of people that are doing remote production from home. Well, do they have backup power? Do they have backup internet? These are a couple little factors. And, those are the kind of considerations when someone's trying to put something together. And then all the things that we talked about are about creating content, ingesting content, whether we're doing it for a remote cast or we're doing a broadcast, or ultimately we think we're going toward event cast. Yeah. And that kind of sums it up. And thank you all, whoever has been watching this or who will be watching this in the future, that if you're looking for any support in this area, Corey, could you put in the chat your contact information, how to contact you? And LMG has offices around the US, so we try to be green as far as pull it from the closest office, because clients are very cognizant of trucking costs and shipping, and they we try to be green.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you doing this. I know you reached out to me about a demo of some new stuff, and I was like, hey, would you make it a show and I could invite people to it? So thank you for being willing to do this so we could record it and share it with more people. This was very, very awesome for me. Do you have a moment to strategize for me on just a potential use case?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so Q3, Q4, as corporations are starting to think about maybe in person again,
Yes.
what used to be the road show will no longer really be the road show. It might be an event that feels more distributed, regional, but all at the same time, and hybrid. So I'm imagining a small gathering in Austin, a small gathering in Atlanta, a small gathering in San Francisco. Now the keynote may be in Austin, piped to the second keynote in San Francisco, piped to, right? So you've got 50 people in each, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Would you, knowing that that's redonkulously expensive to go do that in all these different locations, would you pick one location that you would bring in the real production high level stuff if you have to cut costs in other places and do like in-house at hotels in some places, but anchor on one? Or would it make more sense to do some sort of agreement across all these locations and make sure they all have a consistent level? I don't know what's like more expensive, less risky, more risky.
Okay, so there's 2 or 3 concepts. So I want to kind of answer your question properly. First, there's a concept of the hub and spoke.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like if you look at an airline, they have big hubs and then they hit a whole bunch of other cities. Okay, but I have quoted a number of projects like this, and there's really depending upon if the message is all coming from one source. So if you found a company that was based in Detroit, where leadership was in Detroit, but then they had either, we'll call it regional offices or depending upon the attendees and their geographic location of those attendees. The idea is, if you wanted to go have one, what I'll call the main hub, and let's just take this imaginary company in Detroit, and let's just say they had 5 geographic locations where their sales force, everyone's probably might drive to those locations.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's one in Texas, one in California, one in Seattle, Portland. The idea is that it really answers the question, comes down to this. If you feel like you want to engage people in those other locations and you want them to feel like they're part of the whole,
Mm-hmm.
then what you do is you build a small production system. It doesn't have to be the same veracity or size and scale as what I call the hub, the main one, but by putting in a small production system and having someone present from that remote location, they feel like they are part of the whole.
Okay.
So when you want the sum of the parts, everyone has to feel like they've been part of that whole presentation.
Yeah.
Now, if it's just for people that are watching and they're just participating and they're not going to be doing a lot of interactivity, maybe their interactivity is we're texting in our questions to a site where someone's going to hand them over to and ask them to leadership, and they're going to answer those questions, not live. Then maybe it might be to do smaller production in the remote locations. In no scenario do I support the in-house approach, because the in-house approach, in my humble opinion, is about being overpriced and under-delivered, because most in-houses contracts are paying somewhere between 40 and 50% of those monies are going to the hotel for absolutely no value. So if you want to get no value, go down that path. And also the crew that they keep at those hotels are generally not the crews that work at a high level of production. So, they're used to some, we'll call it simple breakout events, and the kind of crew that you're going to want, because we want the smaller, more intimate rooms that are the smaller groups to feel just as important and to have an experience that is as good. And I feel like by going with in-house, I devalue and I water down the experience.
Yeah.
So depending upon the strategy of the company, And if it were me, what I would do, and we do an annual meeting as well, our company with offices around the US, is I like to have people participate from all the different locations because I think it's very engaging. So if you can put a leader person in multiple places, that's great. You may or may not be able to do that.
Right. That was super duper helpful. And the verbiage you used was great. So I can't wait to get back on the recording, because one of the challenges we have with some clients is certain executives think it's cheaper to just stick with in-house because it's part of what the hotel sold them. Right. And so having that, I mean, I can't tell you, we did an event and it was so difficult to bring the outside production company in to do it. And they were so much better. But in the end, for the second year, the executives at the client company were like, yeah, but the in-house has been fine. So we'll go back to in-house next year. I'm like, no.
What you're referring to is the concept called production value. What I would use this as a litmus test. For me to bring someone in who comes from a real staging company who has a certain level of production value, the difference between what you're paying the hotel and what you're paying them should try to be something similar. And the difference might be whether you have to pay transportation and hotel and per diem and all those expenses. But nowadays, I think the hotels are so interested in trying to book rooms and conventions. I think in the past, they may have been very militant against the concept of letting outside people in or not paying for the AV concierge. I don't know what an AV concierge does. When I do a show, I don't even want them in the room. They can stand out in the parking lot. The point I'm trying to get to is I think the philosophy of hotels in the past was to really encourage people to use the in-house on the auspices that the hotel is getting a big cut of that money, so it's another revenue source. But today they're so excited about heads and beds and food that I think their ability and willingness to negotiate that has changed. And I feel like any meeting planner should be able to at least go to market to see the options so clients really have choices.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think this is Kelly. I would absolutely agree. Although I have found it a little more challenging to go with outside vendors in places like Chicago, Las Vegas, and Orlando, the labor heavy states. So what's your strategy for that?
We're headquartered in Orlando, and our second largest office is in Las Vegas. And I will tell you, first in Orlando, it should be no issue at all. The only issue would be a meeting planner's contract with the hotel and whether that venue has set some limitations that had not been X'd out in the contract. Okay, so in Orlando, I would say there should be no delta in price. If anything, I believe it's a cost savings, in my opinion. And Orlando is where I live most of the time. Now, Las Vegas is a different story. And Las Vegas, I also live in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is difficult because what they've done is they've created these contracts that are very, very much favored toward the in-house, and they want to charge you a convenience fee per room if you do not use the in-house. And primarily at the time, it was Encore, and then PSAV bought Encore and became Encore. I just personally believe the negotiating position of the hotels in Las Vegas is going to be radically different than it was previously. I think as meeting planners, we have lots of choices. And if they don't want to agree to cut that out of the contract, when business was great, they may have had that authority and ability. But today, I bet you out of 100 hotels in Las Vegas, 99 of them would cut it out. And just to get the business, my client wants to bring their provider in. I want you to cut out all the charges. And I think, in my opinion, the people that are still able to do this, even in good times and bad times, are the people that are booking a lot of rooms and a lot of food spend. And those people have flexibility. But one of our largest clients did a show at Caesars, and Caesars typically would never negotiate. And let me tell you, our client got them to negotiate. And I find that smaller groups are at a disadvantage, especially in Las Vegas previously. But today, all bets are off. People are willing to play the game. If you have a group, I believe, and in Las Vegas, the only thing that you'll have to live by is the local 720 rules for your crew, but you won't have to pay the ridiculous fees that the hotel are charging. That's the way I see this going forward, at least for the next 24 months. because the ability for an end user to say, I'll bring my group there, but you're going to have to negotiate. I think the world has changed.
That's great news.
And if you have a problem, call me and I'd be glad to help you negotiate. And I promise you, none of those crazy fees. We not only discount to production teams, so they get, when they spend $1, they get $1.50 worth of value. They don't pay and are the recipient of those crazy overpriced in-house hotel schemes that they are, and the hotel is depending upon that revenue stream. I just feel like they're more willing because they make their money primarily in heads and beds. And I was told in Las Vegas, a hotel makes more money on a specialty drink than they do in the entire revenue stream from the AV company. To throw these crazy ideas out to you.
So good. Well, Corey, Les, thank you again. I really, really, really appreciate this. This was wonderful to see, and good to see you both.
Well, thank you.
Hey.
Corinne, Kelly, thank you for joining and hanging out with us a little bit over time.
And
thank you.
I promise you, next time I see you, I won't be late at a beer garden, driving about 30 miles in the wrong direction. I give Corey credit for that because he gave me the address, but the beer garden was, there's nothing better than the beer garden.
The address was correct.
Clearly not.
I don't know what your GPS told you, but
It's all good. It's all good. Thank you.
All right, y'all take care.
By the way, your 2 books are awesome. I need to do your review on Amazon. I love both of your books.
You liked them?
Mm-hmm.
Did you like the second one?
Yes, I did like the second one. They're
Did you
both
do homework?
great. Do it.
Did you do the homework?
I have not. I had not finished the homework at all of them. Not yet.
Okay.
No.
I just want you to know
the first half of the chapters I finished.
Okay, I'm getting ready to start the 3rd book. So,
Oh, congratulations!
yes, and it's the 3rd book's dedicated to surviving COVID
Oh.
and what it's like to be a business owner and the emotions of an industry that has been decimated and the reality of what you have to do to survive and thrive and pivot. You have to shrink, hibernate, and pivot. Those are the 3 things you do in 2020. And we're doing this project in Vegas where we're blowing up something, a big sign, and revealing 2021 in the desert. So look for something on social media for New Year's Eve.
Well, I'm going to put in the chat. This is the mantra that we're starting to use now. The math equation.
there you go.
Thank you,
I like
everyone.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been fun, Liz. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.